If you grew up in the 2000s, chances were you remember hearing that voice, the roar of a V12 engine, the trio arguing about who's the biggest idiot, and somewhere in between, a mysterious man in a white helmet silently judging everyone. That, my friends, was Top Gear, the most chaotic, hilarious, and iconic car show in the world. But like most things that fly too close to the sun, it didn't just fall. It exploded in spectacular fashion. This is the rise and fall of Top Gear, the show of how three British dudes and a faceless driver turned cars into comedy, then destroyed everything in the process. Let's rewind to the early 2000s. The BBC had this small car show that had existed since the late 70s. Boring, slow, and painfully British. Then in 2002, it got rebooted with three new hosts: Jeremy Clarkson, Richard Hammond, and James May. They didn't just review cars, they roasted them. They insulted manufacturers, argued with each other, and blew stuff up, and raced fighter jets with supercars. It wasn't about cars anymore, it was about chemistry. And it worked. Within a few years, Top Gear became a global phenomenon, airing in over 200 countries. People who didn't even like cars watched it religiously because it wasn't really about horsepower. It was about friendship, stupidity, and doing dumb things with expensive vehicles. They once tried to make an ambitious car that could cross the English Channel. Another time they turned a caravan into a rocket and accidentally destroyed a building. And then there was the Vietnam Special, where they tried to travel across an entire country using scooters. It was chaos, but it was beautiful chaos. Behind all the jokes and explosions, things started to get tense. By 2010, the show had become too big. The BBC was making millions of merchandising, tours, and global rights, but the hosts were feeling trapped. Clarkson was already known for his say whatever I want attitude, which the BBC absolutely hated. Every season brought a new controversy. Jokes about Mexicans, Argentinians, cyclists, you name it. And every time the BBC had to apologize while Jeremy doubled down. At one point, a politician even tried to get Top Gear cancelled for being offensive to humanity. But the fans, they loved it. It was raw, unfiltered, and brutally funny. Something TV rarely had anymore. Then 2015 happened. After a long day of filming, Jeremy Clarkson allegedly punched a producer over cold steak. That was the straw that broke the BBC's patience. They suspended him, and shortly after, fired him entirely. To fans, it felt like watching a supercar crash in slow motion. Top Gear, without Clarkson, Hammond, and May, wasn't Top Gear. It was just another car show pretending to be something that it was not. And when BBC announced a reboot with new hosts Chris Evans and Matt LeBlanc, people were skeptical. And when it was finally aired, it bombed hard. Fans called it a soulless, awkward, and painful scripted show. The ratings dropped faster than a Fiat 500 off a cliff. Within over 2 years, Evans quit, and LeBlanc followed soon after. Meanwhile, Clarkson, Hammond, and May signed a massive deal with Amazon Prime and launched the Grand Tour, basically Top Gear with a new name and bigger explosions. It was funny, familiar, and had the same banter people loved. But deep down, something was different. Maybe it was the corporate polish, or maybe the trio had simply aged out of the chaotic energy that made them iconic. The Grand Tour started strong, but over time, it lost the wild spark. It became more cinematic, less friends goofing off, more expensive travel documentary. Still, it gave fans closure. And while Top Gear tried rebooting again, this time with Paddy McGenius, Freddie Flintoff, and Chris Harris, it never reached those old heights. Then in 2023, after a serious on-set crash involving Flintoff, the BBC announced the show was being put on hold immediately. In other words, it was over. The fall of Top Gear wasn't just about losing a host or declining of ratings. It was about losing magic, that rare, once-in-a-lifetime chemistry between three idiots who somehow made cars emotional. They took a niche show about engineering and turned it into art, not because of the cars, but because of the moments, like when Hammond almost died in a jet-powered car crash and came back to film again, or when Clarkson and May refused to leave him behind in the Arctic, or when they'd make fun of every other like school kids on $1 billion budget. Top Gear wasn't perfect. It was loud, controversial, and sometimes downright offensive, but it was real. And that's why millions loved it. Today, Top Gear is a relic, a burned-out engine of what once ruled pop culture. The trio had gone their separate ways. Clarkson's farming show became a meme hit. Hammond runs a car restoration company, and May makes YouTube cooking videos. The BBC occasionally hints that Top Gear could return one day, but let's be honest, it never will. Because Top Gear wasn't about the name, it was about them. Three middle-aged men who somehow turned a car show into one of the greatest comedies ever made. So yeah, that's the story of Top Gear, a show that went from revving up the world to running out of gas. Maybe, just maybe, that's how legends are supposed to end.